right, so we'll bring to order the special meeting of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency, December 5th, 2023. At this point, we will do roll call.
Director Wilson?
Here.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Wilkins?
Present.
Director Smelser?
Here.
And Director Tresson.
Here. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and face the flag and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, Rochelle?
Yes, sir?
It's so hard.
Okay, I'm going to have to shut off this headset because my audio is skipping a little bit, and I think it might be because of this headset. So I'm going to go ahead and shut it off, and hopefully I can get back on the regular audio. Okay?
Okay.
Dale, can you hear us without that on? Give Director Cox a second here to play with his technology. It's surprising
Okay,
how...
I'm back.
You back? You good?
Yep, this is much better.
Okay, great, Dale. We'll move to item number 2. That is public comment. Anybody from the public that wishes to address the board for any item not on the agenda may do so at this time. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak? Any written comments that we've received
None.
from the public? No? So at this time, we'll close public comment. Thank you. Move to item number 3 on professional achievement awards and anniversaries. Vicki.
Thank you, President Treespan, and good morning, board members. Thank you, Toronto Human Resources Administrator. As we do on a monthly basis or a regular basis, I wanted to acknowledge staff, specifically one individual who is receiving his 20-year anniversary, and unfortunately he could not be here today, but still want to very, very highly acknowledge him, and that is Chad Bentley in the Operations Department. He is an operations shift supervisor, and in December 2023, he is having his 20-year anniversary. So even though you're not here, Chad, great job.
Please, on behalf of the board, let Chad know we appreciate his years of service.
I will absolutely do that. Thank you.
Okay, moving to the consent agenda. We've got 3 items on the consent agenda. Do any of the other board members want to pull any of those items for discussion out of the consent agenda?
No, I move approval of the consent calendar subject to public comment.
So we've got a move to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, second?
Second from Director Wilson. Any additional comment? Public comment? Hearing none. With just point of clarification, with a remote board attendee, do we have to do all the motions by roll call?
Yes,
We
we do.
do? Okay. So then we have a motion, a second, and we'll do roll call for the consent agenda.
Director Wilson. Sorry, this is going to trip me up today. Director Wilkins.
Yes.
Director Smelser.
Yes.
Director Cox.
Yes.
Director Wilson.
Yes.
And Director Tresson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay. Moving on to the regular agenda. Item number 1 is a report from the October 31st, 2023 closed session meeting.
So we did have a closed session meeting. We did not report out at the end. The report out is that there was no reportable action taken by the board at that closed session. Thank you.
And no further action on that item. Move to item number 2, the approval to declare the 1995 Cat 950F loader as surplus equipment for auction.
Yeah, Board of Directors, so part of the surplus equipment policy requires anything that's valued over $15,000 to be board approved. We're estimating that the 1995 Caterpillar 950F has at least a retail value of $30,000 or more. So seeking board approval to declare it surplus. As the next agenda item, we're going to be seeking approval to purchase the new units that we've been researching. So part of the funds of this will offset the cost of the new loader as well.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Dave?
Where can you sell the hood?
We've been using Gov Bids to sell the surplus, so we'll place it on there with a minimum auction price or starting price of $30,000, $35,000, and then as long as we get someone that bids higher, that's how we sell it.
What does the agency primarily use this loader for? Snow removal?
Primary is snow removal, and then we'll use it in the summertime for various projects. We used it this year when we did the digester cleaning to prep the herb pond for that work. So it sees some summertime projects, but its primary use is snow removal.
And we're moving it to surplus because of issues with emissions. So can you sell it in California?
We can sell in California. It requires a disclaimer to whoever buys it that it may be subject to certain upgrades before it could be used commercially in California, or they could designate it as a snow removal only item. Probably the reality is someone from out of state would be the one who purchases it.
And not
Are
to
we
get,
going to replace it?
Yes, Director Cox, that's the next agenda item is seeking approval to buy a new unit.
I guess my only comment would be, I know at our agency, we've sold a lot of equipment, especially the kind of earth-moving equipment, advertised on Craigslist,
Okay.
and gotten a lot of good responses. There's obviously a demand for snow removal equipment up here. A lot of folks use that stuff, so
Okay.
consider using Craigslist as well.
Okay.
Okay, any other
I've got
discussion
a
on this?
Quick question. So do we use that to take it all the way out to, or do we just use it within the?
No, we use it all the way out the road, all the way basically till TSD. So we'll go past the
Okay.
bus barn. At times, big events, the town's real busy, so we'll kind of help out and go all the way to the roundabout.
Okay.
If it's a really heavy storm, and that way we make sure we get staff in and out and deliveries.
Okay.
But yeah, we use it outside the facility as well.
Great. Thank you.
Super. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll so move.
Okay.
Move to
Go with this.
second.
Moved by Director Smelzer, seconded by Director Cox. Any further discussion? All right, we'll do roll call.
Roll call. Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
and Director Tristan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item 3 is the approval to award the procurement of a wheel and steer loader.
Good afternoon, Board.
Yeah, just want to point out there's an error on the staff report of the wrong person's names on there. It's actually Paul's going to take this as maintenance manager.
All right. Good afternoon, Board. So, as previously discussed, this is kind of the follow-up item to make the purchase or request the purchase of these two items. Just a quick background. We currently own and operate one 1995 Caterpillar 950F wheel loader and one 2003 Caterpillar 248 skid steer for snow removal, routine plant maintenance, project work, and emergency response. The units are equipped with a snow removal blade and bucket, or a snow blower and bucket, respectively. As you can see from the year and the age on those things, they're both over 20 years old, and they're not compliant with the current EPA Tier 4 final emission standards. So that limits our number of hours available for use on an annual basis. It's a challenge to run these things, and we do have to keep track of that. replacing the existing wheel loader and skid steer with the new 2024 models, the Caterpillar 938 wheel loader and a 2024 246D3 skid steer would allow the agency the flexibility to operate the units with less restrictions, as well as cleaner emissions and meet the current regulatory standards. Additionally, we anticipate that there would be significantly lower maintenance costs and greater equipment reliability, being newer units.
What kind of a number are you talking about? Greater? Less per year, let's say, how much less would we spend?
I haven't come up with those numbers, to be honest with you, but I can.
Wild estimate?
Oh, it would be a very wild estimate. It would be a bit premature for me to actually come up with a number, to be honest with you. I haven't looked close enough at that number to see what those estimates would be. It's purely a guesstimation somewhere in the realm of anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000, I would say. But I mean, that's a very wild estimate.
Okay. That's what I needed.
Along with parts and labor, of course. These things, some years are better than others, of course.
Yeah.
But as they come up for major overhauls and things like that, those can be significant. So.
And to note, the new units, the pricing includes a fairly comprehensive warranty, correct?
Yeah, that is correct. We are getting an extended warranty that is a full coverage or a premier warranty that is pretty much bumper to bumper on these things. So it covers the electronics, the hydraulics, and major components. So the scope of the procurement that we're requesting is for the 2024 Caterpillar 938 wheel loader, as well as for the 2024 Caterpillar 246D3 skid steer. Additionally, there's some additional monies that are included for Empire Cat to modify the existing Snowblade that we're using on our 950 right now. So that'll work on the new 938, so we don't have to buy a new one. Those are fairly expensive units, somewhere between $25,000 and $35,000. So rather than buy a new one, we'll just modify it. One other item I did bypass is that our intention is to keep the old Caterpillar 248 skid steer and designate that as a dedicated snow removal machine, and we'll permanently attach the snowplow or the snow blower to it. So, and by doing so, that gives us the flexibility to operate it under the snow removal exemptions, so we don't have to keep track of the hours so strictly. So.
Another question.
Yes, sir.
By putting the blade on the new loader, does that do anything to the warranty?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No effect on the So Empire Cat, they did submit quotes for all of the items, utilizing a pre-negotiated pricing from Omnia Partners Cooperative Contract number 212816. The total for all of the items for both the skid steer and the wheel loader is $412,680.49. Our intent is to use the proceeds from the surplus sale of the 1995 Caterpillar 950F, somewhere in that realm of $30,000 plus, to use that to offset the cost of the new 938 wheel loader. As noted in the fiscal impact section of the proposal here, we are about $35,000 over the approved budget amount of $297,000, and for the wheel loader, and about $1,900 more than the approved budget amount of $78,000. So our hope is to offset that with proceeds from the sale of that 950F if approved. Management and staff are recommending the approval of award the procurement to Empire Cat in the amount of $332,763.95 for one Caterpillar 246D3. For the 938 wheel loader, and the $79,916.54 for the 2024 Caterpillar 246D3. We're also requesting that the board authorize the general manager to negotiate contingency costs up to an additional $10,000.
One other question, Paul. Did you, when you were talking to the folks at CAT, did you look at the hybrid equipment that they have?
We didn't.
You didn't?
We did not evaluate that at this time.
What's that?
We did not evaluate that.
Okay.
Hybrid being electric gas combination, like
We've been using it for 15 years in our snow removal operation at the town. It costs more, it gets better fuel efficiency, and it's a lot less maintenance expense on brakes and whatnot because it's basically a diesel engine that's powering 4 electric motors, 1 on each wheel, and it uses regenerative braking, so a lot of the brake maintenance and issues are significantly less, which was kind of a not something we were expecting when we switched to that type of equipment, but our operators all prefer it. Originally, they were skeptical, but it's the engine's not revving up and down because it's just constant kind of power at 1,600 RPMs that are powering up these 4 electric motors. They're about 20% more expensive, but we've seen the cost recovery and lower fuel cost and lower maintenance cost with them. So I know you've done your research on this. It's not our main thing, but we've had good luck with that. So I'm not looking to derail the purchase.
Okay.
But
with the regenerative braking, pretty much a flat campus here and the road out Jorger's flat, as opposed to town plowing services, which are up and down Northwoods. Would you see that benefit from regenerative braking, given that we're not coming down hills?
you'd see it. I don't know how much ramping they're doing with it, and forward reverse type stuff. But that you get some benefit there. Yeah. Like I said, it's a lot easier on the brakes on the equipment.
We'd be interested in talking with folks at the town to see the unit and assess those.
Yeah, we've got a dozen of them. So yeah, they're 950 series, so slightly larger. I assume they make them in the 938 series, but if that were, because I suspect this thing's going to be at least a year out to actually procure, or do they have them available?
They have one that's coming that we're hoping to get our hands on if approved. So
Yeah, gotcha.
that would be delivered sometime in the February timeframe.
Okay.
So the motion is going to be, if there is one, is to proceed with purchasing these. I don't think anybody would have an issue with staff investigating this, and if for some reason you guys made a determination that that's a better route, you come back to us.
Yeah.
We're not directing you to do that. We're just hearing that that's a potential thing. Dan, you obviously got a lot of experience with the town and using pieces of heavy equipment like this, so I wasn't aware that they made hybrid loaders, so that's pretty interesting to hear
Yeah.
that. Any other discussion on
No,
this purchase? Anything else from staff?
appreciate that info.
Yeah, and this was part of the approved budget for this year, so we did have those funds earmarked. It is a little bit more than anticipated, but we're hoping to offset that cost with the sale.
Super, okay.
What sort of fuel savings did they come
It's
10%,
probably
20?
it's probably 20-25%. It's mostly because it's just running at a constant kind of
Yeah.
idle RPM,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to revving up and revving down, which would, without the kind of electrical motor interface, you've got a lot more of that going on.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, at this point,
I've got one.
Yeah, sure.
One last question for me. So the 938 loader, the older one will be devoted to snow removal.
So
Skid steer.
on the skid steer.
The skid steer.
Yeah, that one is actually the 248 skid steer.
Okay.
That one will be devoted solely for snow removal.
Yeah,
So our
246.
primary,
Okay.
correct. Our primary would be the new 2024 246D3. That would have a removable snow blower attachment and a bucket as well, so we could use it for other projects, but that would meet the current emission standards.
Okay.
So we get a lot more flexibility in using that unit. The old unit would be kept as the backup or standby unit for extreme circumstances and whatnot, and would have a permanent snow blower attached to it, so it could be designated for full-time snow removal.
Okay.
okay. Entertain a motion.
Also move.
Second.
Motion by Smelzer, second by Wilkins. Any other discussion? Seeing none, nothing from you, Dale.
We're good.
We'll take a roll call.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes?
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
and Director Trestman.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, approval to award the emergency launder repair project.
Good afternoon, Board. In the early fall of 2023, staff noticed a small area where fluid was leaking from the launders of recarbonation clarifier number 1 and chem clarifier number 2. Staff considered taking these clarifiers out of service for the winter and going through a competitive bid process and having repairs made in the summer of 2024. Staff concluded operating the plant in this manner significantly increased the probability the plant would or could violate its WDRs if there was an upset or mechanical upstream mechanical failure. Staff determined these failures were sudden and unexpected and posed a clear and imminent danger to the successful operation of essential public services. Based on this input from staff, the general manager declared the situation an emergency. As such, staff solicited proposals from 3 contractors to perform needed repairs. Staff received 2 proposals, one from Rupert Incorporated for $12,870. The second proposal was from Q&D, totaling $19,500. While the bid from Q&D is approximately $6,600 more than the lowest bidder, staff determined the means and methods proposed by Q&D have a greater probability of being more effective and lasting longer than the other proposal. Therefore, staff recommended the general manager accept Q&D's bid. The general manager and Q&D entered into a contract on November 21st, 2003, authorizing Q&D to make repairs to the launder of the recarbonation clarifier 1 and chem clarifier 2. Fiscal impact, the total bid price of $19,500 is less than the engineer's estimate of $25,000. Staff recommends the Board of Directors ratify the emergency declaration under Resolution number 14-2023 and authorize continuance of contract work, allowing staff or agency to proceed with the emergency repairs.
Thank you. Questions? So the work has begun.
Work will start, so Q&D, they're performing maintenance on their equipment. They should be out sometime next week or the following week to make the repairs.
Great. And so again, we are ratifying, the contract's been signed, so the action being sought here is basically the board ratifying that $19,500 contract.
I'm in favor of it.
Okay.
It just sounds like a better repair job up there.
Yep, no, that was good. Did I hear a motion from Director Wilkins?
Yes.
Okay.
Approval.
I'll second.
Moved by Wilkins, second by Smelser. Additional comments? Hearing none. Michelle, do roll call?
Sure.
Thanks.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes?
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
and Director Trestman.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, good luck with that, guys. Thanks for taking care of that. And item 5.5, approval of Resolution 16-2023, updating the signatory authority authorization for agency depository accounts, checks, and general fund warrants.
So as part of a routine audit, staff identified that we needed to update the resolution identifying who our signatories were and our authorizations. So working with legal, we drafted a resolution 16-2023 for board approval. I do want to note that as part of the work to get this completed, we are going to, at a future date, do a more detailed policy that we'll bring back for approval that goes into signatory authorizations by dollar amounts, et cetera. This is just to get us up to where we need to be for current business.
Will we have to, everybody's re-sign cards or?
Yes, more than likely, I would say
Some
yes. I'll
future.
defer to Crystal to verify that when we do the new one, we probably have to do new signature cards with the banks to set the dollar amount.
Signature cards with the bank, because those are valid. The only thing we will need to do is if, when we hire the new position that's on there, the tech services manager, we'll have to update the signature card with his signature or her signature. And then one of the board of directors, was it Director Wilson? That we need to get his signature on there as well. But the signature cards are all still valid.
Well, good. Good housekeeping there on your guys' part. Appreciate that. Any other comments from board members? I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
Moved by Wilkins.
I'll second.
Second by Smelser. And Rochelle, roll call.
Director Wilkins?
Yes.
Director Smelser?
Yes?
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
And Director Tresson?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, staff. Item 6, approval of the Barkowitz, Chronic and Shanahan Legal Services rate increase.
So in January of 2023, the board approved amendment number 2 with BKS for legal services. As part of that agreement, it lays out the process for making annual adjustments. Working with Andrew, the BKS is proposing approximately a 5% rate increase with rates outlined here in the staff report. So part of that is to bring it to the board for approval for any rate increase. So we're bringing it to the board to approve, and staff recommends the approval of the rate increase as outlined.
Yeah.
Any questions, comments from?
I got a comment, if I may, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Dale.
Rochelle, could you send this item in its entirety over to Jessica Asher at the PSD?
I sure can.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Great. Scott, anything?
No.
All right. Cost of living adjustment for the attorneys. Seems like a reasonable amount given what the CPI has done.
I move approval.
We have a motion by Wilkins,
A second.
second by Wilson. Any further comments? Nope. The roll call.
Director Wilkins?
Yes.
Director Smelser?
Yes.
Director Cox?
Yes.
Director Wilson?
Yes.
And Director Tresson?
Yes.
Motion approved.
There was one other item. I don't know that we can discuss it. Segue is decent here. It's not really agendized for action, but when we got this increase, one of the questions I raised with Richard was what additional costs are we incurring to have our legal counsel attend these meetings in person? And I think it's hard to nail it down, but I think you came up with a number of a little over $1,000 per meeting. And so I think that going forward, when legal counsel, we have closed sessions, we want our representation here. We'll continue to do that, but I think that with your guys' assent, I think if we have agenda items where it would be reasonable to have that counsel available by kind of like Dale, either Zoom or phone. Should something come up, to be able to answer it by phone, I think we may go that route. I just wanted to make sure you guys are comfortable with that going forward in an effort to, honor Andrew's time and the district's money. That might be a more cost-effective thing when we don't have items where.
But along with that, we need to be careful. I was just doing the ethics 2-hour nonsense, and God, listening to the Brown Act, I almost don't want to say anything ever. Jesus. So I'm just thinking, you know, with that, we need to be careful how we,
Absolutely. I
Save
mean, I think
money
that, I think this would be a discretionary decision between Richard, the board president, whoever that board president is, and probably in consultation with the general counsel. You know, I mean, there are times when you don't even need counsel at all. I think that, you know, and maybe we move to that point, but as a segue, I think at least, you know, where in-person attendance isn't required, we would at least just have them by phone. And I think having a legal counsel by phone on certain closed session items that require legal counsel be there is adequate. Is that correct?
Director Tresson, that makes good sense to me.
Okay.
I did want to remind the board, our legal services agreement does provide for a reduced rate for when I do travel up here.
Okay.
I think it's 85% of the regular rate, but attending remotely, given that you have a good setup, makes a lot of sense to me. Director Smelser, I don't think your concern is too valid. You guys don't get a lot of Ron trouble here. You guys follow the rules, so I wouldn't worry too much. And
Okay.
I'm happy to step in over Zoom if it gets out of hand.
okay.
Okay, so that was just a kind of more of a point of clarification and seeing kind of assent in that direction, so.
I appreciate you bringing that up, Blake.
Yeah, all right.
That's good.
Very good.
So, fantastic. That takes us to page 2, item 7, consideration for approval of board attendance at the 2024 CASA Winter Conference.
And so, in discussions with Director Trayson and the CASA conference coming up, we placed an agenda item. It's really to see if any of the board of directors would be interested in attending the winter conference being held in Palm Springs from January 24th to the 26th. So I'll turn it over. I think perhaps Director Trayson can talk to the
And I'll just share.
conferences.
Right. TTSA is a member of CASA, the California Association of Sanitation Agencies. That organization has conferences twice a year, their annual conference in, I think it's July, and their winter conference in January. At least at TSD, we typically have 1 or 2 board members who attend. They're good networking, good information, and so I recommended that Richard bring this up there. I'm going to be going, but as a TSD GM, we do have a couple board members there, but it's good to get these on the agenda so that, you know, it's not, you know, there's a cost to the registration, the hotels, travel, and all that, and it's good for the board to kind of give that authorization. And so typically, you know, what we do at TSD is just let the board say, you know, that they approve of anybody who wants to attend that. And then if someone does, then they coordinate with staff to do it, but there's motion on that. But again, if it doesn't work this time with the short notice, I'd recommend that we keep these on the agenda for the annual conference in July, and that other board members consider attending these and seeing what else is going on out there in the
I think it's great.
industry that we're in. So I will. I'm trying to remember how we agendized it. So I guess I will go ahead and make a motion that authorizing any board member to attend the CASA Winter Conference if they so desire.
Second that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I would love to attend, but I will not be here. But the one in July, I'd be very interested.
Yeah, I thought you might be interested, but then I remembered you had
Yeah.
travel plans then. So great. So we've got a motion by myself, seconded by Wilkins. We'll do roll call.
Okay. Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes,
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilson,
Yes.
and Director Tristan.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Follow-up question on that. Richard, are you expecting any of the TTSA staff would be attending this?
Not currently.
Okay.
I started looking into it after talking with Blake. There's a chance I might entertain going.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to the end of the regular agenda. At this time, we'll move on to our staff team reports. So department reports, we'll start with you, Mike.
Good afternoon, Board of Directors. For the Operations Department, all plant waste discharge requirements were met for the month of October. In the Operations Department, the plant performed well through the month. Drained and cleaned the chem and recarb clarifiers, side 1, to facilitate the clarifier repairs that Aaron spoke to earlier. Continue to monitor and evaluate sodium hypochlorite project, pilot project for effluent disinfection. We had the digester cleaning project that we completed. Removed and replaced the iron sponge media for H2S removal through the digester gas. Cleaned dewatering building centrate and sludge feed tanks. Completed 1 work order. We have 1 pending. And for the lab, the staff performed the necessary laboratory testing. Corrective actions accepted by assessor. Laboratory completed the annual proficiency testing with 100% pass rate. Congratulations, lab staff. And the lab is in process of completing the application for the ELAP certification. And then you can see the numbers here. Is there any questions for the operations department?
Just a question on that. The ELAP certification, maybe you could describe in not too many words, what that is and where we're at. And you mentioned that we've applied for certification. So what was the lead-up effort?
So we had a company come in and do an assessment, and after doing their assessment, the lab had to actually make some changes on things so that we could be T&I compliant, which is what we've been talking about for a long time, to get the lab up to national accreditation standards. And we did that assessment. We made those corrections. And now with those corrections, we've now submitted for that application for the ELAP standards.
Yeah.
So then once we get that, and I think that was all, it was all supposed to be due by 2024, first of the year, middle of the year, 2024. So we're a little bit ahead of the curve. So it looks like we'll actually hopefully get that certification before we actually needed to get it.
So we basically had a third-party review of our lab facilities and operations practices.
Yes.
Received recommendations on modifications to make in order to kind of meet the current standards that exist for such things. Made those modifications. Now we're trying to get. Is it the state that certifies that? Who's the certifying entity?
So ELAP is actually right now it's done through the state. ELAP, I believe, is a national accreditation. So, but I think it still goes through the state.
Okay.
So the state will still be in charge of that, but they'll be working nationally.
Okay. So we basically submitted that information. There's some person or entity at the state that reviews
And make sure that we're compliant.
reviews all of this. Then
Dotted our I's, crossed our T's, and make sure that we are at that level. And then there'll be, in the future, whenever we have, every few years we have to have, they come in and do audits.
So
Make
it's
sure that we're
audit.
continuing to do things correctly, and then if there's anything that needs to be fixed or changed. I know the LIMS system has helped significantly for the lab to get to the T&I compliance standards. So our technology is kind of getting caught up. So.
okay, thanks.
Hey, Mike, October looked like the lowest flows. It's probably been the driest we've had out here. Granted, we had a big winter, but driest conditions we've seen since we initiated the sodium hypochlorite disinfection system. I'm wondering, are we still continuing to see our total dissolved solids down at the well by the river staying nicely below our requirement? I know that was one of the concerns of moving to the sodium hypochlorite.
Yes, at this time we are still under our limits. Yes.
Okay, and did you see you're not seeing a trend upwards. I mean, it was a really wet year, so there's probably still a fair amount of groundwater, but, so I'm just curious. Okay, it's looking good, like the investment in a full scale, it was great. And then I don't know, Richard, whether I'm getting ahead of myself, but at the last board meeting, you guys mentioned re-engaging with Lahontan regarding our permit. I don't know whether you were going to bring that up under yours or whether that's kind of Mike in the operations side, the permit compliance side. I'm just wondering if there's been that discussion was initiated.
Yeah, I can speak to where we're at. We reached out to Lahontan and got some guidance from them. There's a form that we have to fill out, and then we're going to submit a letter asking them basically to revise and update our existing WDR. And we've already gone through our WDR, and we have recommendations for revision, things that can be eliminated, things that we're requesting to be changed, and we're going to submit that to Lahontan for their review. And it depends on what they come up with. They could come back with a couple of different directions to go, but at least it'll give us direction to move forward in the future, so that when we do go to do any kind of change out in the plant, process change or anything, we'll know what the revised limitations are or what the actual permit is, whether it's WDR and PDS, so on and so forth.
Were they surprised to hear us wanting to
We've been
change this process?
asking for quite some time to have it. It's been kind of word of mouth and they've been talking about doing it, but it just seems like it keeps getting put back to the back burner. So now we're actually going to do through the proper channels and do the documentation. And there's probably still going to take some time because they're busy too. They got a lot going on, and they'll get to it as soon as they can. So.
Right.
Blake, I'm curious from the other board members. So it sounds like what we're doing is initiating a request to Lahontan to update and really to update the regulatory requirements they have on us.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like we have some ideas as to what we would like to see updated, or it sounds like staff does. I'm not sure that I do clearly, but is that something that other board members would be interested in receiving, having an agenda item on, in terms of kind of big picture what it is that we're asking in terms of the change?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I don't really understand the nature of the form. You described it in sort of general terms. I think if it's, something that you can share with us, it might be keeping us in the loop. And if there are, discretionary things that, you think could really pivot the agency one direction or another and you want our input on that, eventually it's going to be Lahontan that's going to make the determination. But, it sounds like we have some. They're actually looking at us to make potential recommendations. So
they've asked for any recommendations that we have moving forward. The document that we're filling out is a very simple document. It's just it's a request to make a revision to either a WDR or a PDS, depends on what permit you're under. It's just a two-page form. It's not really that big of a deal, but it is what you have to do to get the ball rolling to get it revised. So you do this when you're getting a new WDR and PDS, which they have a little bit faster permitting program that it happens quicker. But since we already have an existing one, it'll probably take a little bit more time. But we've just gone through that. Our actual written permit that the last time was updated was in 2002. It's got a lot of language that was in there from when we did the expansion for BNR, because we went from ion exchange to the biological nitrogen removal system. So there was a lot of language that was left in there, and a lot of the language that's in our existing WDR is from the very beginning, the first time that permit was ever written, if you go all the way back in time. And we just wanted revised to reflect what today's wordings are, and also what Lahontan is, how they want to move forward with us as far as what that permit looks like, so that in the future we know how to better plan for any kind of expansions or upgrades or changes to process. They also asked us if we had any ideas of any processes we were going to change in the near future, put that information in a cover letter. that we're going to be writing just a quick cover letter that is going to go off with the WDR that we basically put into a Word format and just gone through and done revisions, what we think some of the revisions should be.
Right.
So the constituent concentrations, the only thing that we're looking at right now that we're asking to change is the pH at well 31. Other than that, all the constituents and the concentration levels that we have to meet now in our permit, we're not recommending any other changes other than that one. There's nothing else we're recommending other than just the pH.
A lot of different lab samples that they have to collect that are kind of a lot of redundancies that I don't know how much information it gives them, but it's a lot more legwork on our end that they might consider removing.
They may or may not remove it, we don't know, but there are things that we're asking for.
I know there's also been at least some internal conversation, at least I think there has been, about do we try to get our waste discharge requirement kind of final measuring point? Does that continue to be well 31, or do we move it closer to the plant, like potentially the discharge point from the plant? I don't know if that's part of the request we're putting forward now. I don't necessarily.
At this time, it is not.
Okay. And I don't know if it should be or not, and what the
Yeah,
pros
we
and cons are.
internally had that discussion and didn't feel it was in our best interest to move it at this point in time. I think everyone unanimously agreed to leave it at well 31 with the request to open up the parameters on the pH. That's the only item.
Due to the groundwater influences that we have
Right.
no control.
Right.
And Mike, regarding the process, I mean, Lahontan wants to make sure that the water quality we discharge meets these certain criteria to protect the beneficial uses.
Yep.
Do they really play an active role in what processes get us to that point? Or did your comment that they want to know what processes we're considering, is that because they want to know that we're about to spend, $30 million on something that is to something that they might change, and therefore they may want to expedite a change they want to make before we invest the money to hit a certain target that they actually have plans to change, or are they actually interested in, and does the permit include, you have to use activated sludge, pure oxygen, and stuff like that?
No, they don't.
They don't care about.
They don't dictate what process you have to use to meet the requirement.
Okay.
They just basically set the requirement for the water quality on the river.
But their interest in what processes we might be implementing may influence how fast they move if they're looking at the district making major investments to hit certain things that they are considering adjusting. They didn't provide that feedback to us. Okay, that's great.
I would make that assumption.
Okay.
This is going to be a back and forth process too with us and Lahontan as we go. I'm sure once we submit this, they're going to have more questions too, as we go.
So to go to Director Wilkins' request, would you like us to do a presentation at the next board meeting, just given maybe like 10,000 foot view of what we have?
That was a question. I was curious if other board members are interested in that. I mean, ultimately, that's the agency that has primary regulatory authority over us, and we're opening up a 20-year-old permit with them. Just I think having a basic understanding at a high level of what that entails would be helpful to me, at least.
Okay.
I agree.
So we'll plan on a presentation at the January.
If that's the time where you've got good information to provide us, like Mike said, there may be a.
We could at least present what we've carved out of it. A lot of it is references to equipment that we don't run anymore, those kind of things. But we can do a high-level overview of what we're doing.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I remember, I want to say when you gave this item last month, or a month and a half ago, I think for some of us, it might have been the first time we'd actually really had the permit itself in a board packet to look at, and there were some interesting items in there, and so understanding, more about what our requirements are would be good. I think generally we're satisfied to see that first bullet item Mike provides every month, that the discharge requirements have all been met, and we're like, good, but it would be interesting to understand a little bit more what those are. So
We'll have an agenda item.
that's good. Any other questions for the operations department?
Just, where does that red hose go? I see it going out the door.
That goes straight to the a pump that we had outside of the room that went down to the ERB. We'll show a couple more pictures here. So this was part of that digester cleaning project that I mentioned in the operations report. We did some modifications to some of our digester discharge piping and made it into suction lines, and we used an existing pump that we had. It was kind of a joint effort between the mechanics and the operations department to, instead of bringing Baker tanks in like we had before and the dewatering bins, so we saved money on that. We actually used existing equipment, and this also kind of laid in with some training that we have to do every year, or that we've been doing every year as far as for our emergency bypass piping, laying that out, our lay flat hose. We were able to roll some of that out and utilize it for the cleaning project. Kind of killed two birds with one stone, so it was a nice thing. So anyway, a couple of the staff, Greg and Matt here, once we got the hoses all hooked up and stuff to the discharge piping. Next slide, please. This is inside the digester during cleaning. One of our staff members, Jesse, this is hair and rag material that accumulate in the digester. This is just a small portion of it. This was probably weighed out at about 25, 30 pounds, so it was a keeper. So, yeah, but this is the type of material that we're removing, so we have to pump that all out. It has to go out to the herb, and then we clean it up later. And there's also a lot of grit material that comes into the plant that ends up in there. So you can see in the back, along the back wall back there, a lot of that black material on the ground is just that fine sand and grit that gets into the sewer system, ends up in the digester facility when it doesn't get removed at Headworks. Mixing nozzles, stuff like that, that's just the inside of the digester.
Hey, Mikey,
Yeah.
flash that picture right there, stop. Are those flesh-covered gloves, or is he bare-handed that material?
Good question.
When you're in operations, you got to be tough. You keep bare-handed.
Boy, I'll tell you what.
He had gloves on. He's got gloves on, Dale.
Those plastic gloves on. I'm
Good.
a plumber. I've been in it up to my eyeballs, and I'd never do that.
No, he's got gloves on. They're orange. They're kind of orange. They look almost flesh colored.
Mike, how often does a digester need to be cleaned out?
Every 5 to 7 years,
Okay.
typically, is how often we're
Okay.
cleaning them out. And we have 4 of them. So.
Okay.
What about his face mask?
What do you need a face mask for? It's all digested sludge.
Okay, if you say so.
So did he lose a bet or?
Where's his SCBA?
It's part of the job. It's all clean atmosphere. We're constantly monitoring, and we have air fans blowing in there. So, yeah. Safe environment. Next photo, please.
Great.
Oh, look at that, the Halloween potluck. That was the scariest costume right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the winner.
It was way scarier than the cow in the back.
Yes, it is.
That's horrible.
Can you go back to the
I
other?
want to see
on the
the
other-
picture from behind.
You go to the other picture, Rochelle, right there. So this is the end of the URB where, and this was, staff came up with this idea to take some of our get some barriers, and on the far side of the herb, which, is where our old Vactor pad was. If I know you've been out there, Blake, and we used to bring all our Vactor loads in there, and all the material would end up down in that area. We kind of cordoned it off to keep the digested material in that area, so we can now, once that dries out, we can go in there and just dig the grit and rag and material out, put it in the bins, and have it hauled off to Lockwood. So yeah, it was a good idea by staff to come up with this and try to do it without saving a little bit of cost to the agency, not having to rent the bins and stuff. So
Nice. That's a clay line pond, VRV?
that is the bentonite line.
Okay.
Bentonite lining. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Any more photos for us?
I think that was it. Is that it for ours? Yep. That was it.
Anything else for Mike?
Just that one.
Operations?
Just keep that one up.
Okay, Paul.
Well, good afternoon. So we tried to condense the months of October and November the best we could, and try and provide some of the highlights for the month. But we did continue working with engineering on the boiler replacement project. A lot of work has been done over the month on the sodium hypochlorite project as we run the electrical and prepare for the plumbing and the tanks to be delivered. We're also wrapping up final revisions for Skate IT master plan. We had anticipated having that for a board presentation, but we had to go back for revisions. Continuing work with the landscape project, finishing up on the 2023 roof repair project. Warehouse inventory project is also ongoing. And then, as stated earlier, the digester cleaning project, we coordinated with operations on that effort. Which we'll have a couple of pictures, nothing quite as good as from the last report. A couple of the highlights of the month, we did replace the filtrate clarifier level transmitter, completed the TRI calibrations and verifications with an outside vendor. We replaced the primary number 3 exhaust fan conduit, replaced the VFD for the TWAS pump upgrade and converted that over to AC from a DC unit. We installed polymer skid for the thickening centrifuge. Ops is still testing that right now. We're looking to fully automate that here in the near future. And the biggie is, we began installation of property signs. We're nearly done with the property signs. I'm sure most of you saw those signs as you're coming down the road coming in. So
good.
They're popping up all over the place, and they do seem to be somewhat effective. We've had less people out on the property, or unauthorized people on the property during after hours and things. Not completely, but we're getting there. We completed the annual snow pole installation, and then as you'll see from one of the pictures later that we've had a significant rodent problem over the past couple of months that is really tearing up some of our vehicles. So that's becoming an issue for us that we're trying to resolve. And as you can also see, we removed the trees from the front and rear of the admin building, so that changed the landscape quite a bit, but that is in anticipation of the landscape project. So, a couple other things there as far as a heater, and graded the new public parking area along Butterfield. You may have seen that on your way in here. We're trying to direct traffic over there so that they're not parking off the side of the road and tearing up the asphalt and getting into the bushes and weeds and things, trying to direct traffic a bit more successfully. And work order stayed pretty flat over the last couple of months, as you can see from the numbers. And on to pictures. A couple of pictures there of the sodium hypochlorite electrical trench. We did that in-house prior to getting the vendor out here to start working on the pad. We wanted to get that in there. So we just wanted to provide a couple pictures of that. We're still working along the corridor, and we'll have, or inside the building, we'll have pictures at the next board meeting of some of that as we hang the transformers and get the some more electrical in, some of the breaker bottom panels and whatnot. Next slide, please. We have quite a few pictures, so please bear with me. And that's the pump that he was talking about earlier that we used for the digester cleaning project. There are times when it does choke up, and we got to get in there and manually muscle things out of there. But the pump worked great. The whole process worked great overall. We're pleasantly surprised by the outcome of this project. So on the left, you can see the lay flat hose that we all got together, and this was a combined effort. We had most of the maintenance staff, most of operations that were out here handling that hose, trying to get things laid out and secured. So it was a fun day. Next slide, please. And on the left there, this is some of the effects of the rodent damage that we're having there. As you can see, we have to pretty much strip everything out of there. Due to some of the past concerns with rodents and whatnot, we take it very seriously, and we get in there and we wipe things down and sterilize, and people are wearing masks, and we're using HEPA filters and whatnot. So we're trying to protect staff as much as possible. But we've had a couple of vehicles now that we've had to do this to, unfortunately.
And where are they parked? Normally outside?
Yeah, they are. Unfortunately, we don't have enough indoor parking at this time to protect them. And chances are they'd still find their way in there to get to these. So.
And that's our favorite car.
Let's see. And picture of the tree removal there, as you can see. Next slide, please. Some pictures of some after-hours work on one of our clarifiers there. One of our staff members working on that. Rebuilding a gearbox, an old gearbox, by the way. And to the right, we have a picture of our new used man lift, helping us get some conduit done on one of the primaries. One of the more challenging areas to work. Now that we have one in-house, we don't have to rent one anymore, so it's kind of nice. And some of the gate installations, I'm sure you saw those as you came in. We do intend to get some more signage out there, add some additional signage, and put some reflective tape on those. So we'll be wrapping that up over the month. And picture of our contractor out there putting up the big sign right there as you come onto the property there, or drive down Jordan. That to the right is the new Velodyne polymer system, and that one's been a long time coming, and replaces a very old, inefficient system. So my understanding is Ops is pretty pleased with the performance of this new unit.
The polymer is something that goes into the digested material before centrifuging?
This is thickened waste-activated sludge. So we further thicken the waste-activated sludge before it goes to the digester so that we can save space in the digesters, less water in there, more solids material to be digested.
And the final couple of pictures here, just to let you know that we are still having a fair amount of dumping along the road. It seems to be gardening or potting or manure type material that we're seeing out there fairly frequently. So we're hoping that the signs will help us combat that. We're going to do our best to try and stamp that out, but it is still occurring.
So we don't really know what it is.
It appears to be manure, or potting soil of some sort, but we don't know exactly what it is. So, yeah. Any questions? We can answer.
When you calibrated your meter, did you find that it was still on pretty close, or did it require?
No changes were required.
Okay, great.
They stayed pretty stable. We rarely have changes, but on occasion there's a little touch up here and there, but usually not.
And that's your influent flow meter, or is that I know you guys installed a new flow meter on the effluent discharge pipe.
So effluent is coming. This includes the new influent flow doors that we have for the main line, the parallel line, and then all along the TRI as well. So this is what was typically called the Lahontan Flow Study.
Okay.
We just kind of refer to it as the calibration and validation.
Okay.
That's primarily the task that we're performing.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.
So
Go ahead.
It's just a question about roof repair. You said you're finishing up, and Derek says it's completed. Are we all done messing with the roof? We're ready for snow?
I'll let Aaron speak to the project as a whole, but from the maintenance perspective, we wrapped our portion of it. We just had to disconnect some fans and do some minor electrical and move some of the cameras and things that could help to support that project.
So, I guess diving into it.
Yeah.
So, starting with the engineering report, diving into the roof repair project, the contractor has completed all work with the 2023 roof repair project. We're buttoned up and ready to tackle winter.
Yay.
So projects under construction. Obviously, we have the sodium hypochlorite foundation project. Maintenance has been great in assisting with that. Appreciate their help with that. We're also undertaking the emergency laundry repair project. So those are our projects under construction projects. We do not currently have any projects in bid phase at this point in time. Projects in development are the boiler replacement project, which is reaching out to a consultant. And the scope of work is pretty much finished. The TRI Alpine Meadows to Oregon Valley Rehabilitation Project. We've reached out to consultants, should get their RFPs December 14th. And staff is designing the front parking and landscaping improvements project.
Great. Questions for engineering? Thank you, Aaron. Crystal?
So this is just
pictures.
two pictures of the sodium hypochlorite pad being constructed. The one on the left is the installation of conduit to each of the tanks, and the one on the right is the contractor applying the subgrade there and compacting.
Okay. Thanks again.
This is October, November combined. Apart from normal operational duties, we have been attending some classes online. We did do purchasing agent interviews, and we are continuing to finalize audit with the auditors, the final field work. Next slide. And then in the billing and customer service area, continued working on connection fee study, and then Celeste participated in the purchasing agent interviews. We had 17 residential connections, and then 3 accessory dwelling units and 2 commercial and industrial connections. Next slide. Kaylee is continuing to cover both AP and purchasing until we get the new purchasing agent onboarded, which Vicky's working on. We did make an offer for that position, and we're just going through the background and all of the things that Vicky needs to do on her end. Participated in the strategic planning meeting. Had a meeting with Stephen Bortland. He came on site. We have an investment. One of our treasury securities is maturing December 31st. And once I have all the information for what we're going to reinvest in and how much, we'll bring that to the finance committee and then to the board in January. And then working with Jason on his portion of the TTSA code book. That's it for us.
Thanks. Any questions for Crystal? None? Great. Anybody else staff reports?
No other staff reports this time.
We'll move on to the general manager report.
So I mentioned we've had our professional development coach working with select staff. Also, as mentioned, sodium hypochlorite continues to work well, and we're in the process of constructing a new facility. Hopefully they'll be making their first concrete pour this Friday. Continue work on the connection fee study. We had the opportunity to meet with Director Wilkins, with the consultant, and go over some of the questions that had been raised at the last board meeting. Continue work on a land exchange with Truckee Airport. We'll be having a conversation with legal after with some of the information that we've discovered as we've worked on processing this with Rob and his staff to keep that ball rolling.
When you say after, it's part of...
No, after, just him and I after. Yeah. Sorry. Attended the local district managers meeting. As mentioned, we got signage coming up around the property. We held our evacuation drill in October. Also collaborated with TSD and TDPUD on the 2023 Water Professionals Appreciation Day, or week. So we did some various celebrations with lunch and breakfast over that week. We also held a Halloween potluck with a costume contest with a $50 winner, which you'll see a photo of here in just a sec. And then with the holidays, we also had our Thanksgiving luncheon that we had catered. Big highlight is we did the strategic plan meeting on November 28th. We spent that whole day kind of revamping core values in our mission and vision statements. So we have a secondary session coming at the end of January, 1st of February, to start developing some agency goals for the next year. And then that the participants included all of the leadership staff with a select handful of staff from throughout the facility to represent each of the groups. We had interviews for our E&I technician, IT supervisor, and technical services department manager. We'll be having second rounds for the IT supervisor and the technical service manager tomorrow. Update on the status with the individual who lit the fire on our property. Basically, we're still waiting for more to develop. They are interacting with Rochelle and keeping her updated on the status. We'll see if we ever see any kind of payment for our cost of that. Holding our Sierra Community House virtual Thanksgiving food drive. We did two different ones. We did one for Thanksgiving, raising $1,600. We're in a current one for Christmas, and we're also doing a coat drive and Toys for Tots. Other than that, and so far $1,100 for the Christmas one. So, any questions?
I've got a couple. So on the, you mentioned the connection fee.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to have a presentation on that
In
January?
Yes.
So we're still on track for that.
Yes.
Okay, and then just out of curiosity, on the HR interviews, were most of those people in-house folks, or was it a combination?
Purchasing agent was all external. The E&I technician, I didn't set up one, Paul.
It was all external.
All external.
Except for one. I'm sorry, there was one
One
internal.
internal. No viable candidates came out of that interview, correct?
That's correct.
So we're replying that one. IT supervisor, 2 internal, 1 external.
That's correct.
Second interview is with the 2 internal candidates. Technical services department manager, all 3 individuals were internal, and we're bringing back the 2 top candidates for second interview.
Thank you.
And then just some photos from photo staff that we use for the Water Professionals Appreciation Week. Halloween potluck. There's those participants in the bottom, and Kaylee won with her rendition of Ace Ventura. And she played the role. Didn't just dress up, she played the role. She knocked it out.
All day.
And then the next photo is just as a setup for our Toys for Tots in the Community Cares Coat Drive. And I believe they've already picked up 1 load of toys and
Yeah, the first
items.
day they came to drop off boxes, but we already had our own boxes that were full. And they picked up 14 toys and 23 jackets. And the volunteer that came to pick them up was in tears because she was so excited. She took a carload of stuff back with her. And we filled them up again. So we're doing good. A lot of participation this year. It's great. That's it.
Anything else, Richard?
that's it.
Okay, thank you for that update. Questions from the board for Richard?
Thanks for all the
No?
good work.
Yep, some nice looking activities there. Do we have an update on the plan for the holiday party? I thought we were going to see an email or something. Can we get it?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead. You're coordinating.
Sorry, I did send a flyer for that out yesterday. I forgot
Okay.
to include you, but I'll bring you one. It is next Wednesday from 7 to 1:30. We have an event going on for staff. That's why it's starting so early. But we could use board attendance by about 9:30, 10 o'clock for judging. We do need judges for an event. For this
It's a good event. It's-
Wow, you guys. 7 to 1:30. That's.
President has to be there at
So
7.
Is it
just-
happening here, or is the
Happening
lunch?
here.
It's
It-
in
it
this
is
room.
good. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And
Lunch will
that's-
be served here, and if you can come before lunch, 10:30 should be good. So if you're here by 10:30 or even 11 to judge our event, to announce the winners. And I think we established we're going to have first, second, and third place.
We did.
And,
We don't want to mention the event because
Okay,
it's
that's
going to be a
fine.
surprise to
It's a
All right.
staff. so-
And are all the board members invited to attend?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm going to be out of town.
Okay.
We'll take lots
Dale's.
of pictures for you.
Okay. Sounds good.
and it's not like anything you've ever seen at our regular Christmas party.
Okay. And just staff and board members, spouses
Correct.
not invited. That's right. Okay.
And
Very
we
good.
will have some live music from some staff that
Nice.
internal staff that's going to perform. So
Okay. Thank you.
And lunch is being provided by Zanos.
Okay.
That's at noon.
We asked them to deliver by 11:30. Between 11 and 11:30. But we will have snacks and live entertainment.
Thanks for that update. I think we're on now. Director's comments. Any comments, Dave?
No, I'm good.
Scott?
I'm good.
Dale, you still there?
I'm here.
Okay.
And awake.
Anything from you?
Nothing from me.
No comments from Dale. You going to make it back for the holiday lunch?
I'm sorry.
Are you going to make it back for our holiday party?
I'm going to be back there on Monday to sign my check, my bank cards, and I'll be there the full month of December.
Fantastic. Great. Nothing from me, so I think at this point we'll close the open session and take a 5-minute recess and go into closed session.